Hey guys, so foundation routines aren't really my forte, and usually when I'm watching a makeup video and they're doing their foundation routine, I usually fast forward because truthfully I get bored. I like seeing color, and foundation routines are usually the same thing. It's not like you can put on a purple foundation and then a blue one the next day. And the reason I'm not really into them is because the only time I wear a full face of makeup is when I'm filming, and then I wash it off right after. So I don't care how well I do my foundation. So when Jaclyn's video popped up on my recommended list, I was like, okay, you know what, I should watch it because I could learn something, and I don't put much effort into my foundation routine. And I'm so glad I watched her video because I learned a lot, you will see in this video. So let's get straight into it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and let's begin. Okay, so for primer, I'm going to be using Stila's One Step Correct Primer. So if you've seen any of my videos where I'm putting on face makeup and I use my Urban Decay, I forgot what it's called. That's my only primer, but I always bitch about it every time I use it, and I didn't want to come in using products I knew wouldn't really work and be like, oh my gosh, this was just a horrible routine. And I'm so glad because I needed an excuse to try this out. I've been wanting to try this for a long time, but I don't know why I chose the Urban Decay one over this.
I'm using my favorite primer, which is really expensive and totally unnecessary, but
oh my gosh, I looked up that primer she used and it's $200, and I think the second primer she used was $100. Like, geez, I could fix my car door with that. I could pay off like 3 months of my student loan. That's an expensive ass primer. So foundation was actually the reason it took so long for me to do this video, because when I watched her video I wanted to do it the next day, but I only had two foundations. I had my Kat Von D one, which is really cakey, and then I had my Luminous Silk Foundation, which is 4 shades darker than me. So like I said, I didn't want to come in this using products I knew wouldn't work or that weren't good and then just be like, her routine is horrible. What I waited for was for the Juvia's Place foundation to come out. I got the shade Cebu. I'm so glad I got the shade Cebu. When I was looking at the foundation page they had, I was like, okay, I think Cebu was the only Philippine city in there, and I was like, okay, I have to have the Filipino shade. And when I went to Ulta and swatched all the foundation shades, Cebu was perfect, so I doubt this shade would fit all Filipino girls, but I think it's so funny that this was my shade. Okay, so she likes using her foundation on a sponge. I've only tried that one other time. Since I've been putting on foundation, I've always been using my Sigma F80. And when I watched her video, I basically did a rough draft to see how the products would work together. Even though like you can get full coverage, the dampness still soaks up just a little bit compared to this brush, and this just gives me a nice like airbrushed look. After testing this out, I still feel like this is more full coverage for me than the sponge. But I do have to say I'm in love with this sponge. It's from EcoTools. I think it was like $4. I have my Beauty Blender and my Real Technique sponge. I love the Real Technique sponge, but it is a little bit too soft. Within a year, it kind of started tearing, and it is, I think it is because it's too soft, even though I'm very gentle washing. And the Beauty Blender was obviously my favorite, but this sponge, oh my gosh, it's like a combination of those two. And the reason I got it is because she was using the Morphe one with the straight edge when she did her little contour setting powder thing. Okay, let me shut up and try this foundation. I'm so excited. I wonder if you have to shake it. No, I don't think so. So when I was watching this part, I kind of didn't like the fact that she put, oh nice, there's a little cover. I kind of didn't like the fact that she put the foundation directly on the Beauty Blender. I still feel like if you put on the foundation on your face and then blend it out, it wouldn't soak as much compared to directly putting the foundation on here, but I'm going to try and do what she did. And I loved her technique where she blended it down here first and then gradually made her way up. I just feel like it made it easier to gradually work the foundation up towards my forehead. So this is definitely a technique I'm taking away from this video. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this foundation. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I'm like super blown away. Okay, I'm not saying this because I freaking love Juvia's Place, but wow, it is full coverage. But it just looks beautiful on the skin. Oh my gosh, I can see what the hype is all about. And I can't believe this is only $20. I did get it for cheaper because Ulta always has sales. $17 for a full coverage freaking beautiful foundation. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, this is perfect. I feel like this is such perfect shade for me too. Finally. I'm sorry, but oh my gosh, I'm so blown away. I know it kind of looks a little bit too light right now, but it does oxidize. I tried it on the back of my hand when I was in Ulta and I just walked around a bit and it did oxidize. And I actually really like the fact that it's in a squeeze tube. I don't know why. I'm sorry, I'm just blown away. It looks like so flawless. Okay, seriously, I'm not kidding. This is my new favorite foundation. It's so full coverage, but it does not look cakey at all. You know, I could just end the video right here and just be like, okay, I'm done. But let's continue. Okay, so I am also going to use my Tarte Shape Tape in light medium. I really wanted to try the Juvia's Place concealer out too, but that does have coconut oil in it, and my face is basically allergic to coconut oil. I'm guessing it's just as good as the foundation.
I definitely prefer something a little bit thicker because of the fact that it does sit on the skin a little bit nicer.
That's a lot more concealer than I usually put on, but let's do that. So she just went like that. Okay.
I'm gonna use the tip of that beauty sponge and blend that out. The entire time I basically look up because I wanna make sure that I get that product really into all those little crevices.
I basically went and got the mini version of the Shade and Light palette with the colors she used. So this is my second favorite product I got from her video. This was my first, well, technically the Juvia's Place foundation, but she didn't recommend that.
I'm gonna use the lightest shade in the palette and I'm gonna put it on my sponge.
This part I technically don't like because I feel like it's unsanitary getting your damp sponge, wiping it in there. I don't know why, but I just think like mold's gonna happen if you stamp something wet on pressed powder, you know?
So just by looking up and putting a little bit of powder underneath your eye right off the bat, you're gonna stop all of that from happening.
Truthfully, after I did the rough draft of this video,
if I use a translucent powder underneath my eyes like everybody else does, it gets so dry.
I truthfully saw no difference between using this powder and my loose setting powder. But I mean, since I bought it, I'm gonna have to use it now.
This is the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder.
Okay, so I do not have that Hourglass powder. When I was looking for dupes, someone mentioned this e.l.f. finishing powder, so I went and got it from Ulta, but I went and returned it the next day because there were little glitters in it. So truthfully, you do not need to do that step. Like the max amount of powders I use would be 2 powders. One would be loose setting powder for the under eye and where you put concealer, and then the pressed powder for all over your face. So I'm gonna skip that part.
I'm gonna pick up some of my Charlotte Tilbury powder.
Okay, so for the pressed powder, I'm gonna be using Urban Decay's All Nighter. This one I love.
I'm just going to gently put a little bit of that small layer once again.
Okay, just a small amount of powder like she said.
So now that we are all completely flat and mattified, I'm gonna go in with some setting spray.
This was actually my favorite technique I got out of this, was to spray your face after all this powder. And the reason I never set my face is because I'll wash my face right after I film, so I never really set it or have the need to. But when I tried this out, I really loved it because it made your face nice and dewy and kind of erased all that cake of all the powders. Okay, I do have to say though, if you are gonna spray your face twice, but for that first spray that she's doing, don't go in with a heavy spray, kind of like Urban Decay's All Nighter. For that first spray, try to get a lighter spray. I'm gonna be using Colourpop's All Star Face Setting Spray. So my only setting spray I had before this was Urban Decay's All Nighter, and that one, if you have it, is very heavy. I think her point here is to basically moisten up the face from all of that powder. So like I said, try not to use a heavy setting spray during your first spray and use that heavier, stronger super glue setting spray for your last spray, if that makes sense. Hopefully that made sense.
I'm gonna sit there and just dry that off. Keep my eyes closed, and honestly at this point you should not be talking because as you talk you're moving the muscles in your face and you're gonna get settling in all of your fine lines. So you should just sit there like a mannequin. All right, so now we're gonna bronze this bitch up.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stick to that same contour shade in the Kat Von D. This is actually why this is my second favorite product that I got from this tutorial. I'm not a like huge fan of bronzer, I like contouring more. I've just always been looking for a contour powder. I'm happy to say that I finally found a good contour shade. You do have to be pretty light with this because I notice if I go too heavy on my cheeks, I look like a ghost because it will look pretty gray. But for my jawline and for my forehead, it looks perfect. It just contours and it makes your face look slimmer. Oh my gosh, why is it so hot? Whatever bronzer I've tried, it just, all of it makes me look dirty or muddy. I mean, you could always do both contour and bronzer. Right now, I'm just satisfied with the contour. So I'm just tapping that on first before I blend it out.
Baking is a crucial part in making your makeup last throughout the entire day.
Okay, so baking, something I also only did once, because no matter what setting powder I use, what brush I use, I will always have a white cast. So I'm gonna do one side baking and then one side where I put it on and then wiped it away really fast. But what I did take away from this video is that I'm still gonna draw that line like she did when she baked, and then I'm gonna wipe it off fast. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna be using my Colourpop No Filter setting powder. I have no idea how she got that much powder on her sponge. Okay, so I'll do that, and then I'll quickly wipe it away. I know that was still like for a split second, but I feel like it did set it anyway because you're putting powder on top of that foundation.
I'm just gonna go ahead and carve this out so that when I wipe it away, in a few minutes, everything just looks a little bit more put together and shaped up.
I'm not gonna do it on my nose because I have the same problem. It's gonna stay stuck to my nose and it'll look like I just snorted a bunch of cocaine. So I'm not gonna do it on my nose. So in her eye look, it obviously looks like she's wearing a lot of orange. And for her transition shade, it looks like a little lighter orange. So for that lighter orange, I'm gonna go in with the shade Peach Lemonade. And I'm gonna be using my Sigma E38. It looks so weird with just one line there and nothing here. Okay, so I'm just gonna tap that on. I'm gonna be going in with Tiger's Blood with that same brush. Looking at her look, it looks a lot more red than this. Let's go in with Sour Cherry next. So I'm gonna put that below all this orange. And I'm just gonna pack that shade all over my lid with an e.l.f. smudge brush. The shade she used on her lower lash line looks more pinky red. So for that, I'm gonna go in with the shade Cherry Limeade. Same e.l.f. smudge brush. Okay, now on to wiping off that bake. I don't know if you can tell, but there's kind of an obvious white cast. Yeah, I don't know if you could see it in the camera, but looking at it in the mirror, I can see an obvious white cast. And no matter how much I blend this out or tap it out with a sponge, it will not go away. So that's one of the big reasons why I don't like baking. It's really good in the camera though. Okay, so for blush, I'm gonna go in with Luscious Cosmetics Blush Crush in the shade Lust. And I'm gonna be using my e.l.f. Small Stipple Brush. I know I've said this a million times, but I really am not a blush person. So I truly don't care if it fades away. But if I did want it to last like all day, I'd probably go in with this cream blush and then set it with a powder blush.
So I'm gonna take a little bit more of that same Kat Von D powder from earlier, and I'm going to bring it from the corner down and just kind of swoop it.
Corner down and then swoop it.
If you can see the difference.
See a difference? Hers looks like an obvious difference, but I don't know if you can tell on me. And I'm darker than her. Okay, so she pressed it and then she swooped it. Can you see a difference? Yeah, no, I can't really see it.
I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of the Charlotte Tilbury powder in number 2. And this time I'm not using it.
Yeah, I don't think I can go in with powder again because just from this side alone, from all of that setting powder, I could see more of my tiny bumps compared to this side.
I'm gonna go in my Lancome Absolute powder. I'm gonna put a little bit of that on my face.
Okay, so I couldn't find a good dupe for that powder, but the closest color I have to that shade is from Cover FX, and it's the shade Moonlight.
I'm gonna put it on the apples and then just drag it back, keeping it kind of low.
So on the apples and then dragging it. Oh my gosh, I'm scared to put it on the apples on my cheeks. and she's dragging it up.
I'm like, listen guys, I'm really gonna keep this highlight really simple.
Ooh, I don't know if I want to put it on my forehead.
The reason I'm using my beauty sponge and not a brush is because I have found that pressing the powder into the skin makes it last longer throughout the day.
When it comes to setting my face with a face powder, what I like to do for it to stay on for a long time is to get one of those powder puffs and then press it like this into the skin compared to just tapping it on with a sponge. When you press and roll, it really gets into your pores and makes it last all day.
I'm going to spritz my face one more time with the exact same setting spray. But if you want to make it pop even more, you can go back in.
Sure, why not? Let's do that. Yeah, that looks so much better the second time around. Okay, so for the lip, I'm going to go in with Colourpop's Quickie, and on top of it, I'm going to be putting Dose of Colors over the top lip gloss. Okay, so final thoughts with all of this. Let's start off with the products. Number one, obviously you saw how I reacted to the Juvia's Place foundation. I didn't look at other reviews, so I don't know how this works well with dry skin, but I have pretty oily skin and huge pores. But I feel like this just looks freaking gorgeous on my skin, and it's only $20. I'm so glad I waited for this foundation to do this video. My next favorite thing I got from this video was this sponge from EcoTools, and I love this way more than my beauty blender. Even though I've had that for 6 years and it's $20, I don't care if this doesn't last as long because I could buy 6 of these for one of the beauty blenders. And I just love how many angles it has, because you could do that little cut right there, and you have the little cute butt part. And my last favorite product that I got out of her video was the Kat Von D Shade and Light. I do really like the highlight shade, but I'm more in love with the contour. Like I said, I've been looking for an actual contour shade, not a bronzer, and I feel like this is perfect. Okay, now when it comes to the techniques that she did that I'm gonna definitely take away is number one, when she used the foundation and she gradually worked it up compared to just putting it all over. I feel like that's just such a smart way to put foundation. I'm definitely gonna start doing the whole setting spray after you do the foundation and then going again at the end. So even though I can't keep the setting powder on for long, for like over 5 minutes, I still am gonna do that, but I'm gonna leave it on for max maybe like a minute. And then last, I might not do it all the time, but I like what she did when she sprayed her face and then put highlighter on afterwards again. I do really like that if you want a really blinding highlight. Those first 3, I'm definitely gonna keep doing that in my foundation routine. I think that's it, guys. I learned a lot from this video. You guys already used all those tricks and techniques, and good for you. I feel really happy now that I learned a lot from that, and I feel like just my skin looks really good. I really can't tell if it's from everything I did right now or from the foundation. I feel like it's both, because that foundation, oh my gosh. Okay, I need to shut up about that foundation. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.